You have probably heard the phrase that desperate times call for desperate measures. It reflects the fact that sometimes we're compelled to do things that we would rather not do under normal circumstances. The Apostle Paul found himself in that very situation in our reading today in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 13 to 21. For such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of Christ. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Therefore it is no great thing if his ministers also be transformed as the ministers of righteousness, whose end shall be according to their works. I say again, let no man think me a fool. If otherwise, yet as a fool receive me, that I may boast myself a little. That which I speak it not after the Lord, but as it were foolishly, in this confidence of boasting. Seeing that many glory after the flesh, I will glory also. For ye suffer fools gladly, seeing ye yourselves are wise. For ye suffer, if a man bring you into bondage, if a man devour you, if a man take of you, if a man exalt himself, if a man smite you on the face. I speak as concerning reproach, as though we had been weak. There are two verses in the book of Proverbs that appear at first sight to be contradictory. Answer not a fool according to his folly, lest thou also be like unto him. Proverbs 26 verse 4. And then the following verse, answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own conceit. Proverbs 26 verse 5. Which should we do? How can we do both? I think the answer is simply this. There are times when it is best to do the one, and there are times when it is wise to do the other. In today's passage, Paul reckons that it is wise to answer the super apostles according to their folly. Previously, Paul wrote about the very chiefest apostles, the super apostles in verse 5. He did so with a fair degree of irony. Now he tells us exactly what they were: false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of Christ in verse 13. Indeed, he goes on to describe them as the ministers of Satan. Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light in verse 14. These false apostles were transformed as the ministers of righteousness in verse 15. They were all fraudulent and doing the devil's work, as Paul indicated earlier when he wrote of the serpent who beguiled Eve through his subtlety in verse 3 of this chapter. Paul is going to speak about himself just as the false apostles had. Seeing that many glory after the flesh, I will glory also, verse 18. He's going to speak about his credentials as an apostle, but really presenting one's own credentials in this confident manner is not the way the Lord would usually have us to act, because it is not the way that the Lord acted. It is usually the way that a fool would act. That's why he writes, I speak it not after the Lord, but as it were foolishly, in this confidence of boasting in verse 17. So Paul hoped that in this way he would get their ear, that they wouldn't simply take him to be a fool. Let no man think me a fool, verse 16. However, he is prepared to be taken as a fool if it gets them to listen to him. Yet as a fool, receive me also, verse 16. He refers to the way in which the Corinthians had been taken in by these men who did not have their good at heart. If a man bring you into bondage, if a man devour you, if a man take of you, and so on in verse 20. They had been conned because they listened to the boasts of the false apostles. Paul effectively says, if you listen to their boasts, surely you will listen to me and to mine. Paul was actually very slow to speak about himself. He only did this for the spiritual welfare of the Corinthians. Perhaps we are far too quick to speak about ourselves, and possibly we do so for the wrong reasons. Let us be humble in how we speak and not be proud.